And our next speaker is going to be talking about the digital-driven innovation. Mr. Tansel from Oracle. He's an Engineered Systems Business Development Director for Turkey, Middle East, and North Africa. He worked in Sun Microsystems and other companies as well, and brings in, along with him, a lot of experience to tell us about digital innovation.
I'm using Mac. I can't find it. Thank you very much for inviting us to this event. I'll start with a question. How many of us heard CRISP-DM or SENMA? CRISP, what? Yeah. Okay. I have three items, only three items. Data, data-driven innovation, and what we offer, what we recommend is a big data lab. I'll give a few references after that. So I'll start with data. Land was the raw material of agricultural age. Iron was the raw material of industrial age. Data is the raw material of information age. I like this quote from Alekros. Unlike land and iron, data can be ignored or created very easily. That's the difference. And when we think analytics, there is a difference I would like to stress between reporting and analytics, which is overseen, which cannot be seen easily. Reporting is much more descriptive, and it gives about what's happening. It's about past. It creates questions for you. It doesn't answer that. It converts data to information in a context. It is reports, dashboards, alert, and it doesn't have any context. When we move to analytics, it is much more prescriptive. It tells you what to do. And it helps you understand why it is happening. There is something bad, but why is it is happening? It's about futures. It gives answers. And it converts data and information into insight that you can take actions on. And it has a context and a story. If someone churns, you have the analytics, reports, you understand why he or she in his segment or her segment churns. You understand the story, and you can make an action to reverse the result. So data it's mentioned everywhere. We started with transactional systems, closed transactional systems up to 90s. And then business-to-business transactions started to appear. Class 7 or something like that. It's controlled outside of the organizations. There were data structures, mostly structured. And then people-to-people came into space. We have social interactions now as data to consider. And now we have machine-to-machine. It's exploding. And it impacts everything. It impacts every business. If we care about it, we get benefits out of it. Data-drivenness is about building tools, abilities, and most crucially, I'll stress on that, a culture that acts on data. This is creating a data-driven organization book, and I like this very much. I see lots of organizations. I visited largest banks, largest operators, telco operators. When I talked about big data, they were all asking us what we will do with the big data that you will be providing to us, the hardware and everything. You will sell it to us, and what we will do with it. That's the culture. That's the culture of asking questions. And it's an experimentation culture. You know, penicillin, he worked on it long time, but he found it after a vacation in his desk. So when you ask questions, when your mind is tuned for questions, you will find the answer. It might not be the right answer at the end of the day, like Post-it. 3M tried to build the adhesive, the strongest adhesive, I can pronounce it right, but they found the least strongest adhesive at the end of the day. The mind is tuned. The mind is tuned with the questions, and they found something else which is practical and applicable. That's the experimentation, which comes with the innovation. And it is easier to innovate. Now we can fit all China into a concert hall in the computational terms. We can increase our capacity to compute things. And also, it was, I don't remember those days, in the 80s, 1 gigabyte was more than $100K. Now it's less than 10 cents. So it is easier to experiment now. We can experiment. With that, I come to this. There are known data and known questions. My first question was about SEMA and CRISP-DM. Those are the analytical processes, analytical practices that we use every day to find churn, to find risk, to find other analytical results, predictions that we would like to do. Those are the processes that we do as analytics people. So we have known questions. We would like to find the churn. Who will churn today, or who will not pay their money today, their debt to us today? Those are the questions. We have the data to answer those questions. That's the left lower point that we are. What we see is we need to consider new data to answer those questions. And we need to ask new questions to our data. Those two directions are very important for us to understand how we can find opportunities using our big data or digital environment. So I have an example over here, the Passor. I don't know if you heard the name. Every pilot, while approaching to the airport, reports the expected time of arrival. That's an important time because all land operations depend on this time. So he does lots of things along with reporting the expected time of arrival. This Passor, they put some passive radars onto the airports, and they use big data environments, and they applied big data to find out if the pilot is right or wrong. And after applying their procedures on the airports, they found that it comes up to 0 level. The latencies, the error that the pilots are giving. This is for an airline or airport, millions of dollars. And latencies, if you prepare yourself on a gate and you wait for 15 minutes to plane to arrive, you use that resource and that space that cannot be used anywhere else. So it creates delays on the airport. So they find a niche place by asking the same question, but using new data, using the passive radar data or the meteorology data. On the other side, we have the known data. In most of the government institutions that we are working with, they are dealing with fraud. They're asking new questions to the known data that they have. This is the analytical process. It starts, they ask new questions to the data that's been stored in their database. And it goes like this. Uber as an example is given. Uber started and they built the system and they started to collect new data about who is asking from where and when it is crowded. And then they found new data, they collected new data, they asked new questions. How can we optimize the price? That's a new question. It's an iteration. When you start to ask questions to new data or start to find new questions on current data, you move to the new data and new questions area. That's what's been done with United Nations Global Pulse Initiative. I don't know if you heard this initiative. They are collecting very vital information by using human sensor networks, they call it. If you experience an earthquake, you just tweet on that. And they decrease the time of finding exact location of the earthquake, and they prepare for it. It's very critical for them to find it 10 minutes earlier to exact space. So they use human sensor networks through Twitter, through other things, to find if there is a scarce resources will be happening in a developing country. It goes like that. And the second thing is open data. This is Patil's quote about open data. He says that open data is the force multiplier of innovation. Data should be open, and it should be able to be interpreted by other organizations in order to build innovative solutions on top of it. So what I select here is a data product. I call it as data product. It is called as a data product. This is a methodology data product. You understand it. You don't need to know details under it. For data products, every organization, they are now especially in the government space, they are trying to find what information is useful for what sector. And they build data products specifically to that sector for them to be able to use. The currency is consistency here. The data should be published in a consistent manner for others to depend on it and build their innovations on top of it. As you may know, methodology data might impact at least 10–15% of GDP of a country. Because most of our activities, we did ATM cash optimization in the past. If you would like to optimize the cash on the ATM at the end of the day, you need to know the weather conditions. You need to depend weather conditions to optimize on it. So it should be available. It should be consistent all the time. This is Oracle's information management reference architecture. I will focus on the yellow part, which is the big data discovery lab. What we propose most of our customers to build a discovery lab as soon as possible and turn their organizational culture, especially in the business units. There should be people who are asking new questions, asking new ways of doing business, and get them on this lab and then ask their questions by using data. This lab enables organizations to think and like startups. There is a term, Gartner writes this term, citizen data scientist. I don't know if you heard the term. I'm not specific to Oracle. Just take all the tools that your users are using, data discovery tools. They are very critical. And put this on this lab and ask them to ask new questions for them to innovate quickly. We collect new and existing data. It's a raw material. We offer a do anything sandbox environment to people in this lab. And then it's broad access. It's unlike the past view, as scarce resource and controlled resource view. This is resource abundance view. We just put everything onto the palette of the business user and let them paint the picture as they like. We can't be in between. IT's role is facilitation role. IT's role is not taking, understanding the business requirements and putting something back to business. IT should facilitate business to ask their own questions to data and find their answers. So, fail fast. Failing should be part of the procedure. If you would like to experiment, it can fail. If you stop experimenting, that's the failure. That's the all failure. So what we have big data integration. Every data should be integrated together in order to be able to ask a single question, having all data together. It can be streaming, like CDRs mentioned, millions of data points moving into the data center, or it can be batch. It can be data reservoir, and it can also have the data warehouse together with it to manage it. And it should have discovery and business analytics tools on top of it. As I highlight, business users would like to use that tool, they should use it. If they would like to use another tool, they should also use it. All tools should be there because we are trying to experiment. We need them to use the easiest tool they would like to use. And applications, it should turn to an application. It should impact real life at the end of the day. The knowledge in the execution, if we find something which is important, we should be able to reflect it to the execution, to the real time, real use. And it can be on the cloud. It cannot be all the time. We used to think it should be on premise. We may take it, we may use it from the cloud. If we don't have the big data experience, we only have our Excel sheets or data with us, we should be able to use it from the cloud. I have a few examples. CaixaBank, actually, it's a big bank in Spain, and they started with CRM regulatory, and they get 50% sales increase with targeted offers by using analytics and big data. This startup, they're selling tickets, second-hand tickets, I call it. They cut fraud 90% by using big data. And this is gaming. They have 100 million players, and they have 300 million events per day. They could find when players drop playing, and how they can increase or decrease the hardness of the game for the game players to pay something, to get something from them. So they increased their revenue by 62% by using big data. And these are the other references that we have. Actually, I had a video. I think I can see it okay, but let me go back. CERN uses big data. CERN uses big data, and there was an interview, I can share it afterwards. The interview tells that in the CERN, they are trying to provide data to the analysts, because the people who collect this data, they don't know what it means. They just want to provide it to the analysts for them to understand, for them to discover what's in the data. So they use Oracle tools, discovery tools. They give the data to them, and they discover what's going on during the experiment or after the experiment. Is there a video? No, that's not right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tansel.